What's up, guys? Welcome back to another video. So today we're going to take a deeper look at Darkmoon decks. I think they're going to be fantastic in Wrath. They've been a staple of gold making forever. So I already did a video of like the overview. Today we're going to focus on a little bit more of some specific weirdness coming from the fact that you have to turn in the Darkmoon decks at the Darkmoon Fair. And we're going to theorycraft like what you should do during the very, very important first Darkmoon Fair. So obviously, one thing to note, when you're making Darkmoon decks, if you want to make a profit, you have to figure out the average value of the decks, and then your average value or the crafting cost of a single card. Once you have those two numbers, you can figure out if it's profitable to craft cards at all. And what's typically been the case in the past, and what is probably going to be the case in Wrath of the Lich King as well, there's one card, there's one deck that's really going to carry most of your profits. In Wrath, that's going to be the Darkmoon card Greatness. This is best in slot for many classes into Ulduar. So this is going to be the most sought after deck. You can probably sell some of the others for pre-raid best, probably for maybe crafting cost, maybe a little bit more. But the Darkmoon card Greatness is going to be selling for a lot of gold. Because, well, every Death Knight is going to want one, for instance. Now, as I said, you have to go to the Darkmoon Fair to turn in the finished deck and get your trinket. The first fair will open on the 10th of October. So that's about 14 days after Wrath Classic launches. Which means this is going to be the golden fair, obviously. This week, the week from the 10th of October, 7 days you have to turn in as many decks as you can, turn them into trinkets, and make money. So this is essentially, those first 3 weeks are going to be crucial if you plan to do this market at all. Generally speaking, the highest prices, the highest profit, the largest sale rate, all of that happens the first time something is available. We saw this very recently in Retail WoW with legendaries. The moment you could get legendaries, prices exploded. The moment you could turn the crafted legendary item, which is very similar to a Darkmoon deck quest item, the moment you could turn that into useful gear, prices demand exploded. So I would not maybe sell some decks, but I'd probably hold off on selling decks until the first Darkmoon Fair arrives and just watch the incredible frenzy. Now we have to look at some of the price dynamics, and we're going to use some examples from Retail WoW here. And it's going to be very similar because players in Retail WoW and players in Classic in general care about the same things. They care about having a strong character. So what we have here is one of the herbs from Shadowlands that was used in the Darkmoon decks very significantly. Obviously, the price is so high relative to the current price. The price graph doesn't work, but we can hover over and we can see the prices. So day one, it was about 300 gold per herb. 2 days later, price had fallen to 190. Then it trended down a little bit more, hit the low point on Monday, which was 6 days after, or 4 days, 6 days after launch, 140 gold market price on my realm. And then it went up again, went up a little bit. This also happened to the region price, 189, went up a little bit. And this is a very typical price pattern we see with new materials, that they hit a low point at some point during the first week. It varies a little bit. These were useful right away, Nightshade. You could craft Darkmoon decks right away. Nothing was locked at all. So you wanted to buy these right away and turn them into Darkmoon decks. Whereas with other materials, we've seen that a lot of people day one, they don't level their crafting professions. They don't care about buying materials, and materials just are posted by people farming them, but no one's buying, and the prices don't go up until more people hit max level. But that's not the case with this, and I don't think that's going to be the case with herbs because of glyphs, because of Darkmoon decks, so you can start crafting right away. There's literally nothing locking you from crafting them, so demand will start up right away. You can do this on a level 68 crafter even. So we think we can expect this to be similar to how it is, and then it will reach a low point at some point where demand or supply has caught up essentially. Now you will need to be aggressively buying herbs throughout the entire first few weeks. Why? You'll need an average of 230 of the high yield herbs, the Iced Thorn, Adder's Tongue, and I don't even remember the last one, whatever. Or 400 of the lower level herbs per deck. That's assuming that you use all of the pigments you get from milling those herbs to turn in for Snowfall Ink and craft the Darkmoon cards. So obviously that's a lot of decks. That's a lot of herbs. And due to how Darkmoon card RNG works, you literally have to craft hundreds of cards, which means 50, 60, 100 decks. So that means potentially 20 to 40,000 herbs. You don't have to do that before the first fair necessarily, but you will want to buy literally thousands of herbs during the first 3 weeks to make sure you have a good distribution of cards and you don't end up effectively paying 15 cards per deck because you have so many duplicates that don't make it into decks. You need to craft a lot of cards to get a relatively decent distribution. Then you have the deck prices. So this is the Darkmoon card Veracity from Shadowlands, which is the most popular one. As you can see here, it was very expensive the first day, 175k probably. I was selling, I think I sold one at some incredible price day 1 or day 2. Then the price is quickly falling, 40,000 after a couple of days. It never really recovers outside of periods where someone notices there's few available on the auction house. We can do a market reset. We can expect that to happen in Wrath of the Lich King as well. The potential for doing that is definitely there, particularly due to the fact that once the fair is gone, well, you can't craft more finished trinkets, that is. You can make more quest items, but they don't matter. They're not a trinket. So what we can expect here is a sort of monthly cycle where the price will be trending up on the decks because no one can make more decks, and then once the Darkmoon Fair rolls around, the price will go down. Not for the first one. For the first one, I expect prices to go up because now everyone wants to make sure that they get their trinket during the first Darkmoon Fair. But for the further ones, we can expect the price to trend upwards as the fair has just left town and people can't make more trinkets. And then once the fair comes, the price will jump down to some new lower level, lower than what it jumped to the last fair, and then it will start rising slowly by a little bit as we approach the next fair. We'll keep doing this cycle. That's what I expect, which means you want to front load your effort as much as possible. During the fairs, you probably don't want to sell. You probably just want to turn in trinkets or turn in quest items and get more trinkets to sell. And you can sell those out over the next couple of weeks and months. Now, lastly, we have a couple of tips here to help you out maximize your profit. Number one, utilize the ink trader. As I mentioned earlier, you can turn 10 of the common inks into one of the uncommon inks. You need 3 snowfall inks, the uncommon inks, to make a Darkmoon card. So yeah, that's going to help you get rid of all your Azure pigments and inks of the sea. You'll definitely need to spend a lot of time crafting inks here. So utilizing downtime or a second account if you have one is going to be a godsend. So that's definitely useful. If you end up with a bunch of ink of the sea you want to use for something else, you can also potentially use those to craft glyphs, which might be very profitable. But there's also the fact that people who do this, they might have a lot of ink of the sea extra, and we might see cliff crafting costs go so low that they are not super economically relevant. We'll see. The demand is going to be absolutely super high, so that's going to be interesting. Now for herbs, the highest potential play here, in my opinion, in this market at all, is to target the first fair and finish as many decks as possible before the first fair. And to do that, you'll want to prioritize the higher level herbs. Why? You cut your milling time almost in half. 230 herbs versus 400 herbs per deck. That's a huge difference. A huge difference. Milling is going to be by far the most time-consuming part of this. This will most likely be more expensive per ink, but it will. I think it's going to be the most profitable. But we'll definitely have to see if the difference in crafting cost is very large, and you'll want to do the lower level herbs. Obviously, I'm sure it'll be profitable to sell these for months. As I said, some of these are bis all the way into Old War. So they're definitely going to be popular after the first fair as well. But for the first fair, just having fewer herbs to move through is going to give you more time to make more decks, which is what's going to really matter. Lastly is to utilize card trading. Trade with other crafters. People did this a lot in Shadowlands, particularly leading up to and during the later fairs. So that you finish as many decks as possible, so you can then sell them once the fair is gone, and prices should go up a little bit. You generally don't want to sell finished trinkets during fair weeks, or at least not focus on selling decks or trinkets at that point. You should spend that time crafting and trading cards, finishing as many decks as possible and turning them into more trinkets, and you can then hopefully sell for a little bit more during the downtime between fairs. And due to how card waste works, the fact is you have to craft literally thousands of cards before you actually get down to the average of eight cards per deck. I use the rule of thumb, essentially, that each deck is costing me 10 cards. Which means that if you have 7 cards, one of each, and you're missing one, you're essentially willing to pay 3 times the crafting cost for that one, and you'll still not really be increasing your crafting cost significantly. So do be aware of that. It can definitely make sense to buy singles. Like if you have, say you have 5 of each, 1 to 7, and you don't miss 8s, just buy 5 8s for 2 times crafting cost. You'll make a ton of money. So definitely look for opportunities like that. Don't be afraid to pay a little bit more for a single card. It's not going to screw you up. And now we get to laugh at the fact that I recorded that with OBS on the screen, as this is just me talking and I'm the lazy gold maker. We're not going to edit that out. So yeah, guys, that's it. That's what I've theory crafted as an approach to the Darkmoon deck market. I think this is going to be incredibly profitable. As I said, find it very, very flattering that someone commented on my last video on Wrath Darkmoon Decks and said that I shouldn't tell people about this because I would make it not profitable. I don't have that kind of reach, number one, and number two, literally everyone who cares about gold making already knows that Darkmoon cards are going to be great because they have been one of the best ways to make gold in every expansion launch since Wrath. This is absolutely not the secret, but it's still going to be hugely profitable because there's RNG involved, which means that people shy away from it. Crafting Bist gear is always profitable. Tons of people don't like crafting. This requires a ton of effort. You have to craft, you have to mill thousands of herbs, craft hundreds and thousands of inks. Most people don't want to do that, and the people who do will be making a profit. Thanks for watching. See you on the next one.